I decided to not comment between the election and the inauguration because I wanted to see what kind of presidents we were looking at here, what kind of path and trajectory he was putting his administration on. And all of the statements and all of the comments lead me to believe that he's thinking more of a political conquest than political compromise.
Welcome back to Harvard this weekend. Congressman Paul Ryan, you just saw him there, kept up the Republican claim of victimhood, that President Obama is more interested in defeating them than he is in getting something done for the country. Well, last week, House Speaker John Boehner started that drumbeat, saying President Obama was out to annihilate the Republican Party, and Ryan amplified it when he spoke at a Future of Conservatism summit this Saturday.
The president will bait us. He will portray us as cruel and unyielding. We can't get rattled. We won't play the villain in his morality plays. We have to stay united. We have to show that if given the chance, we can govern, that we have better ideas.
President Obama has said he hoped this re-election would break that Republican fever of total opposition, but in an interview with the New Republic magazine, their brand new magazine, he said obviously that hadn't happened yet. Joining me is now a columnist and professor at the University of Georgia, Cynthia Tucker. Thank you, Cynthia. And the Washington Post great Eugene Robinson, both are Pulitzer Prize winners, actually. Thank you both for coming on. I want to start with Gene up here. It just seems to me that they've got this new sort of gee whiz, we're getting beat up, but they were the party that for 4 years shut the door on a new president. He won the election and shut the door on him.
And said, you know, our number one goal is to make him a one-term president. Yeah. And they said, no. They said no to measures they had proposed in the past. Yeah. But as long as he proposed them, they said no. To turn around and then say, oh, he's hitting us, he's beating us up, is kind of silly. And I don't know if, I mean, are they just trying to rally the troops?
Wasn't this the macho party a couple weeks ago? They're now becoming their beaten up party?
No, they're victims.
Cynthia, what is the psychology to tell people who have been predatory towards the president that they're somehow now being bullied? What is in this psycho ward or psy ward here that tells them they'll unite if they're all, you know, we're all victims, we're getting beat up? I mean, Mitch McConnell is a victim.
Psychiatry has a term for this. It's called projection. Projection is what the patient does when he is believing that other people are doing to him what he has done to other people. And that is exactly what Republicans are doing. And it's not just John Boehner and Paul Ryan. This is the narrative that's taken hold throughout all facets of the Republican Party. At the moment, it is repeated ad nauseum on Fox News, and you even hear it from some moderate conservative thinkers who ought to know better. Obama is out to kill the wounded now that Republicans are down. He's not going to make any proposals that Republicans might actually sign on to. Instead, he's going to make them look bad on things like immigration. But it's interesting because Republicans are supposed to be the party of personal responsibility.
But that narrative, Gene, isn't working because quite clearly there's a bipartisan plan on immigration as we see today. Any time that Boehner, the Speaker of the House, who I don't dislike, would come out for a background check on guns, just push one measure. It would zip. If he could get that through the House, he'd be a leader on dealing with the Newtown, Connecticut horror. He could be the leader. And then it would force Harry Reid to do the same.
No, exactly.
But why is he doing it? He doesn't have to be a victim.
Look, I think Dr. Tucker's diagnosis is absolutely right. And I think that, you know, this is the party's way of trying to deal with its own internal contradictions and issues. The Republican Party has issues, and the number one issue, which they don't want to deal with, is that most of the American people don't support their positions on the issues that are important. They don't agree with them on immigration. They don't agree with them on abortion. They don't agree with them on.
Is this the old Avis commercial, Cynthia? We try harder. We're not as big as Hertz. We try harder. We're the little guy that's overcome the other party. Maybe they've recognized that they just did a count and realized there aren't as many Republicans as there are Democrats. Could that be it? That does make them the other. Anyway, here's the president on that subject. In an interview with the New Republic, which has got a whole new outlook, by the way. It's a great new look at the magazine. The president was asked about establishing working relationships with Republicans. And he said, quote, one of the biggest factors in forging bipartisan legislation is going to be how the media shapes debates. If a Republican member of Congress is not punished on Fox News or by Rush Limbaugh for working with a Democrat on a bill of common interest, then you'll see more of them doing it. Boy, the president's really putting up Fox and Rush there. He's saying these are the no men that scare these guys into doing nothing.
Well, it's kind of, I don't know if you saw the Harry Potter movies, but Lord Voldemort, you couldn't say the name. Now he can say the name, right?
Okay.
I mean, he's been reelected.
You're not supposed to name your opponents.
Well, but he's just laying it out there, I mean,
do you think Rush still has the veto on a Republican member? He can chase him into the bushes if they say something he doesn't like?
Well, he says he's going to try on immigration reform. I mean, he announced today, I understand, that he's going to try to block it. Only he can save us from immigration reform. So we'll see.
Cynthia, I do believe that Rush has more power than any individual member of Congress, meaning if he gets attacks all of them, I don't think he can beat them. But if he says to somebody down in Georgia, your country, that guy's got to go, he's a bum, he's a sellout, those guys are petrified of Rush doing that to them.
And we're already seeing yet another Republican who has been limbawed and Tea Partied right out of the Senate. Saxby Chambliss has decided he will resign rather than face a challenge from a Tea Partier. And let me be very clear here. Saxby Chambliss, senator from Georgia, is very conservative. But what was his sin? He actually worked with the Gang of Six to try to come up with a grand bargain to reduce the deficit. He wanted to actually compromise with Democrats. And for the Rush Limbaugh wing of the Republican Party, that is a big no-no. So they have been gunning for Saxby for about 2 years now, and he said, never mind.
I am so shocked at party politics sometimes. Look, Corker in Tennessee ran a rotten, I thought, a racist campaign against Harold Ford, with the little woman saying, call me later. It was so awful. And running against the way that Saxby Chambliss ran against Max Cleveland, a war hero, a guy who's been maimed in the war, was horrible. And yet, I give them forgiveness in this sense. Both of them ended up being people who tried to work as legitimate Congress people and senators. They really tried to make up. I don't like the way they started it. But they did try to get something done, and I give them credit for the way they ended, if not the way they started. In fact, Corporate still in the business, but I wish Saxby Chambliss well in his decision. Coming up, by the way, thank you, Cynthia, as always, for your wisdom, and Eugene Robinson, of course. 2 Pulitzer Prize winners in one show.